Hello, everyone. This is Krishanu, your host, and a very warm welcome to Weekends with Amit. As we do every week, today we have come up with another very interesting subject. And the subject is what happens after romance. So, we are all very romantic about romance. We talk about romance. Movies are made, books are written, poetries are written. But what after that? So let us look at it from a quantum point of view. And to discuss all this, please help me welcome Professor Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Onisor. A very warm welcome to both of you. The subject that we are going to talk about today is what happens after romance, a subject often not discussed so much. So maybe we start with Professor Goswami and your take from a quantum point of view.
Hello, everyone. I hope the subject interests you. Romance, everybody knows, it's superbly interesting. But then, invariably, people also talk about the grief, the sadness, the suffering that romantic love ends up with. And indeed, the data shows that 50% of romantic love marriages break up. Go figure. And indeed, in the 70s, I still remember this was my favorite song, Joni Mitchell. I have looked at love from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow I only remember love's illusions. No, it's love's illusions that I recall. I really don't know love at all. So where does that come from? Why does love's illusion, why call it an illusion? All that I can give my life for you, I can't live without you. Is that all illusion? Just rumblings of a crazy person, crazy with love? That's all it is. No substance to it. There is substance to it. We know what happens. This part, the brain scientists have figured out. There's a brain neurochemical, neurotransmitter molecule, dopamine, that plays a huge role, makes us deliriously happy. And there is a so-called love molecule in the body, hormone, oxytocin, that also makes a huge contribution. Molecular love, brain love. And then the brain, as you know, gets habituated and does not get the same molecular juice in the same relationship. And there goes love down the drain. So, calling it illusory does not seem wrong. If that's all it is, just molecules. That is it. This is a very one sided view. Because, in truth, the neuroscientists know nothing about love. They know neurons, they know brain, they know thinking, but they don't know emotions very well. Their models of emotions are ridiculous. Every person who has positive emotions can tell you, well, okay, the brain may be center of negative emotions. It is true. Midbrain has an organ called amygdala. That's where all our negativity is stored, negative memory. But positive love is felt at the heart. And you know, love has an ingredient. Love, other love, this is at the heart, but self-worth, self-love, self-esteem, that's in the navel chakra. This is the verdict of chakra psychology, which was developed like 2,000 years ago in India, in Tibet. Very well developed psychology. People know what they're talking about. If you have gone to a Qigong master, you can learn. So here is the thing. What we have done with modern living, forget these chakras. We are insensitive to these chakras, while women still have some sensitivity, to be fair. So what has happened is that we have forgotten the body, we live in the brain, and then of course, as soon as the brain chemicals run out, we're helpless. We don't know how to rekindle love in the body anymore. We don't know how to rekindle love at the heart, how we don't know how to rekindle self-worth in the navel, all this. And on top of it, when we develop as children, we do not develop the two chakras in the body in the same manner. Girls, because of the brain construction, pay more attention to relationship. Boys, much less attention. They suppress emotions. This is purely brain structure. That's good because this polarity helps boys and girls to be attracted to each other when they hit teenage. You know, opposites attract. Emotional, intellectual. Opposites attract. But there is a corollary to this. What happens is that in the early years, girls paying attention to relationship, pay attention to other people that enter their life, like father, mother, of course, that boys do too. But for girls, this additional interaction with other adults is deeper, is relationship oriented. And that's where they involve heart already with relationship with the mother, and they continue to involve the heart with relationship with these other people. So they develop their heart chakra, other love quite well. But when it comes to developing self-worth, that's what happens around age 5. Erik Erikson first proposed it, and it's basically correct. So between 5 and 7, the boys develop this chakra where we have all the security concerns because this is where we eat, you know. Feelings are connected with organ functions. Eating gives us security. So our security is all tied up in the navel chakra. And boys have much more of a sense of security. At that age, something else happens, autonomy. So both boys and girls take a leap of autonomy from parents' control to they learn to take a little bit of control themselves. That's the autonomy. But boys do it better because society gives them more freedom to explore relationships other than parental and family, safe relationships. Girls are not even safe from family, it turns out. Girl abuse is very common. So parents are very careful. They carefully guard the girls, and unfortunately, that makes the girls' navel chakra awareness very weak. So here's the thing then, a male-female dichotomy in the body. Girls have better heart, strong heart, but weak navel, and the boys the opposite, weak heart, strong navel. So you see what happens then when one hits puberty and one gets this romantic love that is built into us, it seems like, and we have this wonderful feeling, the heart wakes up to love, and girls have wonderful access to that. Boys, they're a little stuck. Remember, they have the heart less developed. For a less developed heart, it's defensiveness that comes up mostly. They know that if they give up the defensiveness, they will be vulnerable. So boys, they avoid vulnerability at all costs, and some men continue that. So their whole life they will never be vulnerable. Those are the macho men. Strangely, women are attracted to that macho-ness, but that's another story. What happens as a result is that the heart never awakens in these people. They cannot maintain relationship. They are macho, all right, but they look at love like what is it? They have no clue. Basic part of love is caring for the other. That caring requires that development of the heart. These men never have that. Now, of course, girls have that, but because of the weak level, they're not secure. So look at this situation. Men have fear of vulnerability, and women have fear of security. No wonder that famous statement of Jampolsky, a Californian, love is letting go of fear. Both girls and boys, men and women, have to give up the fear, as the case may be. And if we give up the fear and start awakening the chakras, for the female, it's the navel chakra, for the male, it is the heart chakra. We won't get into the secrets of doing all this. For that, you can read our books, Quantum Brain and other books. But we'll tell you this, that the practices for this millennia is a balancing of the chakras that one has to do. One has to learn about vital energies, feelings, but it's not hard, it's fun instead. It's really fun once you get into it. Emotions are the juice of life. In Sanskrit, it's called rasa, juice, literally. And if you are a man who lives in the desert land of no emotions, macho-ness and defensiveness, you're missing out on life in a major way. Neurochemicals just don't do it because you cannot get really, sex doesn't satisfy the way sex combined with love satisfies. The reason is very simple. You can just do a simple experiment. Hold your partner after the sex act is complete. The molecular adjustments happen in the brain. Dopamine start decreasing and serotonin, a sleep-inducing molecule, become more and more prominent. Makes the man sleepy, but also relaxed. Females likewise, they relax. In that relaxation, creatively, the vital energy can transform. Sexual energy can become love energy. And that's the mystery of combining sex and love. If we have learned to do that, see, then we already have an ability not to be so perturbed when the sexual energy runs a little low. We make it up by love. And more if we balance the two chakras. Remember the movie Jerry Maguire, a wonderful Hollywood movie in the 80s, 90s? And the hero says in the last scene, comes back and says to the heroine, "You make me whole," big point. But is it correct? Yes, a woman can fill up the hole that exists in men, hole in the heart. Like, yes, true. That's part of the reason that women attract men. But is that the best way to live? Wouldn't it be better if you say, if Jerry Maguire said instead, "Here, I'll help you fill up your hole in the navel if you help me fill up my hole in the heart. And the girl would say, yes, yes, I'm happy to do that. And then both would be secure in their ability to love making, and marriages would always be wonderful, or relationship partnerships, whatever you want to have. It would be wonderful. There would be no more lamenting. It's love's illusion, I recall. Love is not illusion. It's the most real thing, most satisfactory thing in human life. Valentina?
All right. So this is a big subject. So I'll just mention a little bit about what is called polarity, because obviously to be in love forever, you know, how wonderful that would be, right? Um, but the thing is that we start in a certain way and then we end up in sufferance and aware or not about the projections that we make in a relationship, and how instead of nourishing this flower of relation, we are just destroying it most of the times, you know? So obviously everybody must be yearning for this kind of capacity to stay and be in love forever, yeah? And the good thing is that it's possible, you know. There are not many couples on the planet, but if there would be, I can imagine that all the situation that we have, also including, and especially including everything that happens in the society at all the levels, would be very much different, you know. So, but the thing is that at least kind of try to remember how it was in the beginning of your love relationship. Yeah, romantic relationship. That's the easiest way to go into love on a deeper level, because that's a very intense, overwhelming, effervescent state, you know, in which you feel that your heart is open. You feel all that courage to do everything you want. You know, you feel like you're like a mountain, and also at the same time you're powerfully attracted to each other, and even you can perceive something about that capacity to love unconditionally that we have. But in the beginning, of course, we don't start with that. So there are phases of love also, but again, there are amazing and also very much healing effects of all this love game, if you want to call it, you know. But again, all of this are put down because of this consumer attitudes that is combined with ignorance, you know, that we all have. So I would suggest, first of all, again, of course, it's important to work with ourselves and develop ourselves as we are, and try to understand the secret of attraction in a relationship, you know, because it's rooted in a consciously maintained effervescent polarity, you know. So and this will create a certain dynamism which will reflect also on your life, also in your cells, in your organs. You will see in such a relation, again, you will feel healthy and very much creative. This polarity, of course, it exists also in our own being, in each of us, yeah, individually even, yeah. We are not just, I mean, we have, as a woman, I have my inner man, yeah. We call it anima animus. And also as a man, they have the inner woman. So we speak about this also in the archetypes course in our university, because it's very important to understand what we have and what we can develop by becoming aware of just a few things, you know. So polarity, again, at the core of a polar couple relationship is love and all that power that love generates, which is something which, of course, is fearful for the ego. The ego would just disappear when love is really there. Yeah, it's a field there. Now, in the Hindu, in the Tantric tradition, we speak about this game of polarity, the game between the masculine and the feminine. We speak about Shiva and Shakti, the universal. I mean, Shiva again is not just masculine; it's much more. It's not just what is talked about, and Shakti also, this principle of transformation, of creativity. But again, polarity is really a key that can explain many things that are happening in our life. Yeah. And actually, there are ways to bring this back. So if we have love in our lives, even if we go through difficult situation, even if the polarity is decreased, we can if we know we want to learn how, we have the required humbleness and of course the intellectual capacity to go through all this and actually take this as a lesson of growth, all that's happening in the relation. Because again, when polarity diminishes, the attraction decreases also, and all these problems existing in a couple relationship, but also our own problems can amplify and deepen, and the transformation also slows down and life loses colors also. Yeah, so I think everybody had this kind of experience. It's also the experience when you fall in love and all that polarity attraction is there, and also what happens after that, right? And suddenly you see so many aspects in the other that you didn't want to look at in the beginning. Yeah. Because usually, again, the man becomes lazy, the woman becomes superficial, and all that super intense battery that was created in the beginning is practically dead, But again, if, for example, if you are living all the time, all day long, together with your husband or wife or lover, and then gradually, again, if for a woman you're not centered, you didn't develop this belly area, what Amit has just mentioned, then it's very easy for a woman to just start having her life revolving around the man. Yeah, and in time, obviously, they lose any kind of centeredness, and this can be very, very damaging for the status of personal health, also for the relationship. But also, that person can just really go in a state of sufferance, and I experienced some of that. I think many of the women listening have, right? But again, that's just an example. The good news is that that initial spark of love can be actually brought back as often as the two conscious lovers want it. If they know how to apply this knowledge of polarity and constantly, if possible, even daily, reignite this flame of the relationship until you love each other as when you were teenagers. Yeah. So again, and in order to reignite the passion, you have to recharge the battery, to restore and even increase polarity. And how you do that, by you emphasize also your differences. You stand there, you're a woman, you're a man, you don't compromise all these differences, because you're afraid of fighting, for example. You let this unconscious process, it the quantum way, and you come up with creative resolutions afterwards. But again, it requires a lot of work on ourselves first of all, but again, the effects after that, they will be such as you discover again that the love that you have for each other is not dead, but it's just weakened by the lack of power and is buried maybe beneath all these problems which are produced by the mind, first of all. Yeah. And then with the newly restored power, you can again rise up to the skies of your soul, and soaring above all these problems and even conquer new horizons. You see, it's so beautiful what happens. For example, practicing forgiveness, it can be something to, practicing it on a very deep level, which again, first of all, just to remind you, it starts with self-forgiveness. And then you practice with the others. You, of course, working on your childhood is essential, because again, what is in a very strong love relationship, all the garbage that you have accumulating is coming up. So the stronger and the most with potential of transformation is the relationship, the better the chances that all these problems will just come up in order to purify. And you need to have that wisdom that is required for that. But again, if when you find yourself in a where the polarity is decreased, just because you want peace of mind, you don't want to fight there, you're just flattening this battery of creative power through lack of use. What's happening if you keep a battery in a device and you're not using it? Of course, the battery is going out, right? And all that was based on that power of love will also diminish and disappear, not because it's not needed or wanted, but because it's out of power. So that's a secret to take a look at it, and learn how to recharge it. Instead of making an effort to understand the differences that exist between men and women, I mentioned some of them. It's again, we are different. Neither is better than the other. But again, we usually just go to understand each other and our polar role in a special situation. But instead, what we do, we opt to just try to level the playing field, And if you hear nowadays is so much obsession with gender equality that is mistakenly leading to universal gender neutrality. Yeah. So it's this unisex culture you see even on toilets. It's just interesting pictures there. It's not even showing the feminine or the masculine sex. It's everywhere in the Western society. There's a reaction to what we see in other cultures where one gender suppresses the other in an attempt to deal with the powerful attraction which is generated by this natural occurrence of a balanced polarity. Yeah? So again, we tend to eliminate this very source of power of our life in an attempt to just take out all the negative effects of power. Yeah? It's even known that men, they are afraid of a powerful woman. Yeah? Of course, also women, we have to learn how to everything. So it's a lot of art there in being a woman, also in being a man, and especially in creating this wonderful relationship that you want there, right? So again, of course, as a society, that will be very impactful if we learn, first of all, to just really work on ourselves and develop ourselves, be in touch with our feelings, with our dharma, manifesting ourselves at our best for this world, and also then in your love relationship, you know. But it's about transformation. To me, being in a love relationship, it's nothing but transformation. It's not just staying in your ego, staying in your circle there. It's the biggest chance to transform when you're in a love relationship. And then, of course, you go to practice this tangle hierarchy with your partner, with your lover, and you invite in this way quantum consciousness to resolve your conflicts, you know. But again, it's to describe all these quantum principles of tangle hierarchy. Again, it's something which is you are creating each other. Yeah. Again, once you see your hidden qualities there in your lover through the eyes of love, which can bring these qualities up, and you're moving preferably in the same direction. So yeah, it's a beautiful subject, and I hope everybody's managing to live a life full of love sooner or later. Amit?
Yeah, so I'm sure people would love to manage their life after romance and rekindle, not only rekindle, it will permanently light up the romantic part of their life. And of course, these are very, very, very relevant inputs. I understand that most of our viewers, if not all, would be adults and they can immediately start using that. So, to wrap it up, back to Professor Goswami once again.
Thank you, Krishna. Let's add a little bit deeper quantum physics into the discussion. You can also say that sex is local. The communication that occurs through sex is touch, molecules. These are all local interactions, occur through some intermediary, a signal. Energy or matter acts as a signal, take the information from one to the other. But there is another component. This is a purely quantum component. This is non-local, not involving signals. Signals take a little bit of time. This one is instantaneous because signals are not used for the communication. This is where the caring part of romantic love comes from. See, romantic love has that excitement of sexual union. There is also that caring part that is there. I can live my life for it. That's caring. I cannot live without you. That's caring. That's non-locality. So when the locality goes away or reduces, do we have to give up the non-local part? Why do we give it up? We give it up because of those fears. We give it up because we feel insecure for the female. We give it up because men are back to that. Do I really want to be vulnerable to this woman who does not give sexual excitement anymore? Fear, because now she will just take advantage and I would have nothing in repayment. What is in it for me? That becomes the big concern of the man. Give up those fears. And how to give that up is that chakra balancing. If men and women have a relationship that instead of competing becomes cooperative, like a quantum relationship, Valentina used the word tangled hierarchy. I won't make my decision without you. You won't make my decision without me. So every time we find the cause, we have to come back together. And again, person starts by himself, herself, that cannot do it without the other. So other comes together. Tangled hierarchy. I cannot do without you. Respect. When that happens, then you don't have to worry about maintaining this correlation that I mentioned. Or if I haven't mentioned, let me mention now. Correlation is the entrance requirement for non-locality. Two persons have to be locally correlated. This part requires local interaction. What happens to marriages or relationships that break up, you'll notice that people do not interact even in a local way. They do not touch and they do not make eye contact. There are two ways of making very good local contact. Hearing could do it too, but we don't learn to listen, so forget that one. But if you look into the other side, you can directly see the other is looking at you. That makes a connection. Same, if you embrace the other, immediately connection goes on and goes off, goes on and off, maintains the correlation. Every time you experience something, correlation breaks, but again, you touch, you correlate. So if you maintain those things, even when the molecules are dwindling away, and if you remember that this is only a phase, I can work to get rid of the fears, both of us, by helping the other to develop their chakras, then you can have a very stable, wonderful relationship and make that marriage vow as long as I shall live completely true. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Uh, Viewers, please come back to us every week and you will get to know a lot on various subjects. Some of these subjects apparently are common but with a different take, the new worldview from that point of view, and some points are quite uncommon, like this one: what happens after romance? See you next week.